In 2023, a Federal Reserve study found that the bottom 50% of Americans hold just 2.5% of total wealth, not because they don't work, not because they lack intelligence, but because they are operating inside a financial system that is, by design, engineered to keep each level feeling just barely okay. Just comfortable enough to stay, just uncomfortable enough to feel stuck. Here is what Nobody's Finance Channel tells you. The rules of money don't just change when you earn more. They invert. The strategies that keep you alive at $0 will actively destroy you at $100,000. The mindset that gets you to $10,000 becomes your ceiling on the way to $1 million. And there is one specific threshold, one exact level, where the entire game quietly flips. I'll show you exactly where that is. But first, let me show you what's actually happening to your life right now, whether you know it or not. The mainstream narrative tells you wealth is a ladder. Work up rung by rung, save more, spend less, be patient. That narrative is sold to you by people who have already left the ladder. The ultra wealthy, the top 1%, do not think in levels. They think in leverage. They built systems that generate income while they sleep. You are still trading the one thing they stopped trading decades ago: your time. Here's a data point that almost no one talks about. According to the IRS's own SOI data, the tax rate paid by the top 400 earners in the US is lower than the effective rate paid by the average nurse. Not because of loopholes most people know about, are because of structural mechanisms built into the tax code that only become accessible once you pass a very specific financial threshold. We'll come back to exactly what that threshold is, but understand, right now, you are not playing the same game they are. You are playing checkers on a chessboard. What I'm about to show you is not motivation. It's not a highlight reel of rich lifestyles. This is a structural breakdown of what actually changes in your life. Legally, financially, psychologically, socially, at every level of net worth. This is the map that nobody gives you. At $0, and I mean truly $0, living paycheck to paycheck, something happens that is almost never talked about in finance. Your decision-making architecture collapses. This isn't a moral failure. Our Princeton economist Sendil Mullainathan's research shows that financial scarcity consumes the equivalent of a 13-point IQ drop in available cognitive bandwidth. You are not lazy. You are running a full operating system with no RAM left. Every decision, groceries, commute, childcare, burns mental energy that people with financial cushion don't spend at all. The surface level answer to $0 is earn more. The structural reality is different. At $0, the system charges you a poverty premium. You pay higher interest rates. You can't buy in bulk. You can't take the cheaper annual subscription because you don't have the upfront cash. You pay more for insurance, for rent, because you have no credit leverage. Being broke is expensive. And that is not an accident of the system. That is a feature of it. So how do people escape $0? Not by trying harder, by changing their cost structure before they change their income. The first move is always reducing what bleeds you, not what grows you. Cut the 7 invisible expenses first. Then, and only then, does the income lever become meaningful. But there is a second escape route that almost no one uses. I'll show you that in a moment. First, let's go to $1,000. $1,000. Most people treat this as a safety net. Conventional personal finance advice says build a $1,000 emergency fund first. That's correct, but incomplete. What most people miss is that the first $1,000 is not a financial milestone, it's a neurological one. The first time you have $1,000 you do not need right now, your brain shifts from survival mode to possibility mode. Of the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term planning, literally begins to re-engage. You start to see weeks ahead instead of days. But here is where almost everyone makes a critical error at $1,000. They celebrate, they relax, they spend it on something that felt delayed. The $1,000 level is not where you rest. It is the exact moment the market starts testing you. An unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, will appear within weeks of you reaching $1,000. This is not bad luck. This is the statistical reality of living close to the edge. Your behavior in the next 30 days after hitting $1,000 determines whether you stay there or fall back to $0. The people who break out of $1,000 permanently share one behavior. They stop managing money and start architecting income. They ask a different question. Not how do I save more, but how do I build a second source, even a small one, that doesn't require my hours? That distinction between income management and income architecture is the wall between $1,000 and $10,000. And the wall is not made of money. It's made of mental models, $10,000. This is the level that quietly changes your social life, not your lifestyle, your life. At $10,000 in liquid savings, something shifts in how the world receives you. You can say no to bad jobs. You can negotiate salary from a position of patience, not desperation. You can take a calculated risk, a side project, a course, a move to a better city, without it being financially suicidal. Freedom at $10,000 is not luxury, it's optionality. And optionality is the most underpriced asset in personal finance. Here's data most people don't know. Pew Research shows that households with $10,000 plus in liquid savings report 4 times lower financial stress levels than those with under $500, regardless of income bracket. A person earning $40,000 with $10,000 saved is functionally less financially stressed than a person earning $80,000 with nothing in savings. The number in your account is not about wealth. It's about the absence of financial fear. And that absence, that silence, is what creates room to think, to build, to compound. But the trap at $10,000 is subtle, and almost no one warns you about it. $10,000 creates the illusion of arrival. You feel stable. You feel ahead. You start spending on identity. The right car, the right apartment, the right brand. This is the lifestyle inflation trap, and it kills more financial trajectories than low income ever does. The $10,000 level is not the destination, it's the launch pad. And how you treat it in the first 6 months determines which direction you launch. Oh, we're at the halfway point, and I need to tell you something before we go further, because this is where most people check out. The next 2 levels, $100,000 and $1 million, are not just bigger versions of $10,000. They are a completely different operating system, and if you leave now, you will miss the one piece of information in this video that changes how you think about every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. So stay with me, because we're about to go somewhere different. $100,000. Remember that tax structure I mentioned earlier? This is where it starts to matter. And at $100,000 net worth, not income, net worth, you cross a line where the financial system begins offering you tools it never showed you before. Access to better interest rates, ability to invest in private markets, tax optimization strategies that simply don't exist at lower thresholds. The wealthy don't just earn more, they access a different version of the financial system entirely. One that charges less, returns more, and compounds faster. At $100,000, retail investors typically do one of three things. They over-diversify out of fear, they chase yield out of impatience, or they hold cash out of paralysis. Institutional money at the same threshold does something radically different. It concentrates in high-conviction positions with asymmetric upside while hedging the downside through structure, not luck. Buck, that is the difference between hoping your portfolio grows and engineering it to grow. And that engineering, that structural thinking, is what this level either teaches you or destroys you for refusing to learn. Which brings us to the level that changes everything. $1 million. And here's what I mean when I say the rules invert. Completely, permanently, and in ways that most people are completely unprepared for even when they get there. Most people believe $1 million means you can finally stop worrying. That is exactly backwards. The people who reach $1 million and believe that myth are the ones who lose it fastest. At $1 million, the worries don't disappear. They upgrade. You are no longer managing scarcity. You are managing complexity. And complexity, unmanaged, destroys more wealth than poverty ever did. Here's the inversion. At $0, your biggest enemy is not earning enough. At $1 million, your biggest enemy is not losing enough, fast enough, in the right places. The wealthy don't avoid losses. They engineer controlled losses, depreciation, write-offs, capital structure, that legally reduce their tax exposure and redeploy freed capital into compounding assets. This is not a loophole. This is the system working exactly as it was designed to work. For those who understand it, the social inversion is just as dramatic. At $0, you work for relationships. You network out of need. You take meetings because you cannot afford to say no. At $1 million, the dynamic reverses. People come to you. Opportunities find you. Your biggest social challenge is no longer access. It's filtering. Who gets your time? Who gets your capital? Who gets your attention? Cite the problems of abundance are less visible than the problems of scarcity, but they are equally real and equally dangerous if mismanaged. Here is what the $1 million level actually demands, and what almost no financial content will tell you. It demands identity work, not just financial work. The person who built from $0 to $1 million used scarcity, urgency, and fear as fuel. At $1 million, that fuel becomes poison. The drive that got you there will push you past necessary risks, past healthy relationships, past the point where money serves your life into the point where your life serves money. The wealthiest people I have studied share one non-financial habit. They redefine success before they hit their first million, not after. Let me close the loop I opened at the beginning. The rules of money don't just change when you earn more, they invert. At $0, the world owns your time, your decisions, your cognitive capacity. The system extracts from you at every turn. At $1 million, you own the system. Not because you are smarter or better, but because you have crossed every structural threshold that the system built to keep capital circulating among capital owners. The title of this video was not motivational language. It was a literal description of how financial power actually functions. So here is your structured map, not a checklist, not a motivational poster, a structural map of what to prioritize at every level. At $0, cut cost structure before chasing income. At $1,000, protect the buffer. It tests you immediately. At $10,000, kill lifestyle inflation before it kills compounding. At $100,000, start thinking like an institution. Structure over sentiment. And at $1 million, do the identity work or lose what you built. These are not tips. These are the load-bearing walls of every financial trajectory I have studied. One last thing. We talked about $1 million today. But here's the question that I think is actually more important and more dangerous to get wrong. What happens above $1 million? What happens at $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion? Because the inversion doesn't stop at $1 million. It deepens. And the rules that govern that level are so far removed from what most people are taught that it requires an entirely separate conversation. I'll be making that video, but before I do, I want to know where you are right now. Which level are you fighting through? Because your answer changes what I show you next.